one more. I've got a bunch of examples of personal statements today, and I was debating whether or not I would do it, but sure, I'll share with you a personal statement that I wrote to get into school years ago. And so I can share that with you as well. It's not perfect, which is kind of the point. In fact, one of the things we're going to really focus on today is looking at writing that is not perfect. No writing is perfect, but really looking at stuff that we can try to, by thinking together and talking together, and we're going to use Google Docs so that we can do this, actually try some of the revisions ourselves. Once you start to think like a person who's doing editing and revision, your writing is going to get better necessarily as a result. Okay, so I think that's really an exciting thing, and that's what I want to leave you with, because once you've done this cycle one time and you have that first draft done, you don't want to say, okay, good, glad that's over, time to go party, I'm going to turn in my application. That's just the first of many cycles. Now we have to do it many, many times in revision, and we need to talk about what kind of questions need to go into that revision process. Okay, so it's hard to believe, but this is actually our last session together. It's been really good to do all these with you guys. Yeah, okay, cool. I was just checking something. Okay, give me a second here. I'm gonna show our website one more time for anyone who doesn't have it or doesn't know about it or hasn't accessed it yet. I find that repetition is a really important thing with students, or really just with humans in general. I think it's a really, really important thing, because the more that we say something, the more likely someone will actually do it. So please, 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 if you haven't yet, check out the website. I'm adding to it still all the time. So you see I've got sessions 1 through 5 on here, okay? Starting with our brainstorming, ending with conclusions. That really does get you from about A to Z in terms of our essay itself. But there's then the next step, which is doing the applying and everything else. And with the applying, you have to get the whole package together. And you also want to make sure that you've revised this thing, which is what we're going to focus on today. There's also other essays. A lot of times that universities will ask you to do. In many cases, there are many other essays, like 6 to 8 even, or more, but those are shorter essays. They're called supplemental essays, and we're going to talk a little bit about those today too. But please remember that all the resources we've looked at and more are available on this page, okay? In fact, I'm not going to talk too much about the more, but there is some other stuff here that might be useful for you. There's some good IELTS training resources, stuff for SAT preparation, more lists of transition words, which might be useful for you. Personal statement examples, there's more of these. Again, we're not going to really look at this site today too much, but this is on Schmoop, which I've always thought is kind of a funny name for a website. But there's a ton of essays here separated by like topic, kind of. So stuff for people who are minority, and something about your background and identity, your challenging beliefs would actually fit especially well, as would the international student stuff with you guys. And so there's some really good essays here that probably would be relatable to you, okay? Sorry, I'm having that thing again. Yeah, so don't, so let's be careful here. We don't want to steal essays. Why don't we want to steal essays? I know that's a joke from Diaz, I know, but I do want to address it in a serious way just because I want to make sure everybody understands. One is that there's this concept of plagiarism, which is very, very important. In America, we have not only property theft, but also intellectual theft laws. So you'd be breaking the law if you were to write an essay that was inaccurate. Now, would you be arrested for it? Probably not, but you would be what they call blacklisted, which could mean that your chances of getting into a college would be pretty much zero, okay? So you want to be really careful with that kind of thing. Also, let's say you get the essay written or copied from somebody else and then you turn it in. Fine. What if somebody asks you interview questions about it later? How are you going to answer that? Are you willing to keep up the lie that came with someone else's essay for 4 years? Because that's gonna get awkward fast, right? Much better to share who you are. Because you want to make sure that the college is right for you too. And so if they like what you've written, that means you're probably going to like what they've got to offer as well. Okay, I know that was a joke comment, but I do want to address that seriously. And it's easy to catch these things, guys. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to be super good at this. I'm not going to give you too many details here, but my first year in Kazakhstan, I was working with graduate and university students. And this was a student who was actually going for a PhD program and wanted me to check their thesis. This was their doctorate thesis. They'd spent, I think, 2 years researching and working on this. I was excited about it. It was one of my first times to look at something at that level. And immediately I understood that something was wrong. Why? The first paragraph had a lot of grammatical issues and spelling issues. I don't really care about that. That's fine. I don't mean that it's not important. It is, but it's stuff that we can work on later. I'm more interested in the organization, flow, and content of ideas. That's not what bothered me about this essay. What bothered me about the essay was that once I got to the second paragraph, suddenly everything was very academic. It was almost as if it was a separate writer, okay? And it would go back and forth between these kind of academic sections and this writing that wasn't really fitting very well. And I started to take some of the academic sections and copy and paste them into my Google. That was all. I just went to Google and I was able to find 2 different academic research papers that this student had just completely copied from. And referring to themselves as we, as if you're the Queen of England or something. It was pretty easy to catch. And so she asked me for these revisions, and all I did was I sent her back the list of cited sources. And I was like, we probably need to start this over, right? So save yourself that embarrassment. This can happen to people at any age level. This is not just high school, okay? But not worth it. Not worth it, okay? So, yeah. Borrow. We don't want to borrow either, okay? Let's just use our own. I think a lot of times people think that that there's some kind of cheat code for getting into college or something. It's not like that, right? There's a lot of considerations. It's kind of a lengthy process. But that being said, there are certain things we can do, okay? So I've got a document that I really want to share with you. I'm kind of excited to share with you. And then we're going to look at some different essays, other people's essays. And at the end, if there is any, I'll probably have a little bit of time at the end of today's session for questions, just generally, after we look at supplemental essays and all that other stuff. But then also, if anybody has essay writing that they'd like me to see, we might be able to do a little bit of sharing and like feedback stuff in today's session. I can't guarantee that. But okay, I'm going to put this in the chat. And I'm also going to share it on our screen in a second. These are some questions. Okay, so I've actually got 10 questions. Remember, I can only put a limited amount of stuff in this chat. These are not questions that I came up with myself. I don't want to steal anything either. Okay, so I'll give you the citation in just a second. All right. Because this might be interesting for you too. There's a woman named Miss Fisher. It's not written actually for international students, but it's a pretty nice webpage about how to do personal statement editing. Okay, so I'm going to share this on the screen as well so that we can see what this looks like. Give me just a second. Here we go. Yeah, okay, it's true. So Diaz has a point about supplemental essays. We'll come back to that, how to get a lot of ideas into like a limited space. It's a really good question. Okay, so this is the personal statement essay, peer editing. Some of the questions that I like to consider. There are probably more. So before we even get into these questions, part of what we want to do, and again, remember what I said yesterday, the best help you have is not me, it's not Rashawn, it's each other. So what you could do, if you have friends in this group, or if you don't have friends, it's good to make them. right? We can actually kind of connect that way. But you can actually share essays with each other. And you want to think about all the things we've talked about so far, okay? Is the hook compelling? Are we feeling brought into a scene? Or is this just summarizing an event, right? Does the story that is being told clearly connect to the prompt, right? How are the transitions? How's the flow of this? Is there some logical order to how the article is being written and to how it's being organized, okay? What's the conclusion like? Do you feel like the conclusion is capturing appropriately the unique story that the student is trying to tell? Okay, well, once we've considered those things, these are actually pretty good questions to consider as well. Okay, so first one, what qualities does the person show about themselves through their writing? So Miss Fisher, the woman who wrote these questions, is not the same person as Eason Sawyer, obviously, and so some of the words and terms they might use are different. But I would say we could also say what. Oh, I can't edit this. That's okay. What values, right? What values does the person show about themselves through their writing? Okay. What essence does the person have? What is at the heart of who this person is? And can we see that through their writing? Okay. Number two, and this kind of gets to Diaz's point that he was making about supplemental essays, but we could say this about other things as well, is the writing clear and concise? Concise means short, but not in like a sloppy way. It means that you have all the important information that you need and nothing more, okay? You've been very, very straight to the fact about it, right? So within, I'm sorry guys, I have to, every time there's a comment, I can't see it. Laconic. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what that means. I don't know what the word laconic means. I'll look it up. Let's see what that means. Someone just said laconic. Interesting word. Yeah, sure. Laconic. Using the minimum use of words. Concise to the point. No, we actually don't want to be laconic. Laconic has a negative meaning. It means you're being rude or mysterious. So we don't want to be laconic. Okay? We want to be short, but we want to be short in like a detailed way. Okay? So, good. Good. So short, but not in like a rude way, right? Good. All right. Moving back here. I don't know why the share stopped. Let me see if I can fix this. There we go. Great. Okay. So in addition, yeah, that's good. We got some vocabulary recommendations in the chat. In addition to being concise, not laconic per se. I'm going to go ahead and use that word now that I've just learned a new word today. I feel like I probably knew it at some point for a test, but it's not a word I use very often. We don't want to be rude, right? And we don't want to cut out something that we should have in the essay. But remember to ask that question, so what? Is there anything that we could do without? Okay? It's up to the writer whether or not to remove writing, but some suggestions can be a good thing. Okay. This kind of goes with descriptive writing. Question 3, is the writing specific? Okay, so if we say that something was great or sad or desirable, are we saying why or how? If you just say it was a great day, that's not much of a story. Okay? Guessing a little bit is okay at the beginning if we're kind of getting information slowly as a way of heightening drama, as a way of getting us to keep reading. But we don't want to be left guessing, especially at the end of the essay. And we really don't want to be left guessing for the majority of the essay, okay? I'm going to say with this too, make sure that you are centered in your story, okay? So I could let Roshan speak about this a little bit. Maybe she'll have something to say at the end of today's session, but she went to a webinar she was telling me about last night. I think it was at Stanford. Is that right, Roshan? Was it Stanford?
It was Stanford, and I think most students actually attended it.
Great. Okay, so if you attended this webinar with Stanford yesterday, one of the things that Roshan pointed out to me, I wasn't there, but she told me that there was an essay about someone's mom, and that by the end of the essay, the admissions board felt like they had a good understanding of who that person's mom was, but not a good understanding of who the writer was, right? And so with specificity, when we're being specific, we also need to be focused, and we need to be focused on ourselves. There needs to be some centering of who we are in the essay. Okay, so if I get an essay that has, this is not specific to any student in here, okay? But if I get an essay and the writer, the person who's written the essay doesn't even show up until like the third or fourth paragraph, that is a problem because I'm getting a look at what kind of writing you have, and I probably am getting a look at your values to an extent because I get to see what it is that you decided was important enough to write about, but I'm not really getting a big picture on who you are as a person. And so it would be better to be specific about your story, specific with your details, but also focused on yourself. Make sure that you're focusing on yourself and how you fit into the overall topic. Okay? Next, this is really important, and we haven't taken too much time to talk about it. When I only have 6 days for workshops, it's hard to focus on mechanics, which is like the spelling and grammar stuff that is involved in the writing process. But one thing I would say, if I did get to talk about that, is that the verb is often the most important part of the sentence, okay? And so we want to make sure that we're using interesting verbs, okay? If you're using the same verb over and over again, if you use the word demonstrate 5 times in a paragraph or something like that, demonstrate's a great word. I have no problem with that word, but the repetition so many times would not be a good thing, okay? And so we're looking for interesting verbs, detailed verbs, okay? I can give an example of this. Let's say, I'm going to go to our chat. I'm going to type in the chat here, okay? All right, so let's say this is the first sentence that we have. I'm just using Diaz because I saw his, okay, so Diaz walked in a tired way to school after only 2 hours of sleep. Okay, just an example, right? I know Diaz gets enough sleep, but just an example. Okay. So then I can change this, right? All right. Now, I don't think, yeah, exhausted is a great word, right? And so exhausted is not a verb, though. It's more of a descriptive. That's an adjective, right? But I want you to notice instead of walked, we could say crawled, right? Now, he's not really crawling, but we understand what that means. He's kind of very slowly getting there, okay? Okay. So I know this is not really him, but I'm just saying, this, I think everybody would agree that this second one is there. Stepped isn't really the one because stepped doesn't necessarily, hold on. Oh, I know it's you. Oh, it is you? Okay, I'm sorry, DS. I hope you get a little more sleep. So I don't really like stepped here, and I guess I don't want to get too critical about this, but it doesn't necessarily have a meaning of exhaustion attached to it. So it's not necessarily any better than stepped or than walked here. Okay. Waddle is more like, that makes me think of like a duck or something, which maybe, okay. I would say if you're going to talk about waddle, hold on. Yeah, hobble's a good one. Hobble is a good one. That's like you're walking painfully. If we're going to use waddle, we would want to use it like this, right? So Ben ate so much food at the pizzeria that he waddled home with a pleased look on his face. Like, I ate so much that I'm walking kind of funny, right? So verbs have, yeah, you see, and that's funny because it's a good use of verb. So we want to be good with our verbs here, okay? We could do more with that, but I think that that's something. Don't worry about that right away. Sometimes students take forever and ever to write the essay because they're stopping every sentence to find the perfect verb. I am of the opinion that it's better to get the essay out first. And then once we have the essay out, we can start moving into it and looking for those verbs. Okay. A lot of times just having the drawing on the canvas is enough that we can start doing the more detailed painting, right? Okay. I'm going to check the chat for questions and comments, but I'm going to keep moving. Okay, great. Number 5. This one I hope is a given, but actually there's 1 or 2 students every year who kind of need to hear this. We have to divide the essay into paragraphs. And not only do we have to divide it into paragraphs, I think most of our students understand to do that, but the paragraphs need to be thematically situated, which means that each one should be focused on its own idea. Okay, I like to commit each paragraph to a different idea or a different stage in the story that's being told. Okay, so we'll look at some examples that do this in a moment here, but this one's hard. And then once we have, I agree with Diaz, it's difficult. Once we have the paragraphs separated, okay, and we're looking to make sure that there's a consistent idea on each paragraph. We want to make sure that those paragraphs are actually ordered in the best way for us as well. So sometimes we have our paragraph and we're feeling pretty good about it, but the paragraph that comes after it would actually be better off coming before it, okay? Or there's a paragraph about our days working in a kitchen, followed by a paragraph about starting a technology club at school, followed by a paragraph about starting our own kitchen. Well, the two that are connected to kitchens are probably better next to each other, right? And so we want to be careful about that kind of thing. Ordering the paragraphs is important, okay? Once you have those paragraphs set up, it's really important that we look for the topic sentence that can allow an essay to hang together. There are some good exercises that we can do to identify topic sentences. What I like to do, and what we might try to do today, is to look at a sample essay and then write a 1-sentence summary of that paragraph, okay? If you can do that, you've kind of come up with what would maybe work as a topic sentence. This is kind of a sentence that is representative of the ideas in that paragraph, right? Number 7, we've talked about transitions, okay? Is the author using transitions throughout the essay that are easy to read and follow? Remember that transitions show the relationships between ideas. They're connecting one thing to the next, okay? This is a very, very important thing. And we want to make sure that we're showing those relationships and making them clear. Good transitions can be the difference between a good essay and a great essay. Absolutely, okay? Does the essay capture your interest? We want to be nice here. We're not going to say, no, friend, your essay was really boring. I didn't like it. You must be a boring person. We're not trying to do that, right? But what we're looking for is, what is it that maybe caught your interest the most? If you're looking at someone else's essay, was there a particular paragraph that you thought was the most engaging one? And if you did, what is it about that paragraph? And is it something that this person could do in the other paragraphs, right? Okay, and then number 9, I think this is actually my favorite question. I sort of hinted at this one yesterday when we were talking, but if you only knew this person from the essay, if you had no idea who they were, and I know this is hard when you're editing like your friend's essay, but let's pretend a little, okay? would you think that they would be an interesting or dynamic person to go to college with? Okay. Is this somebody that you'd like to have in class? Is it someone you'd be interested in having as a roommate just based on their writing? Okay. Another question we could ask, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat here. Okay. Here. So I'm just going to type it and I'll speak too. So after, okay. After reading, I want you to imagine the person's room, okay? What's in the room? How would you describe the room? Right? And then see if the writer, hold on, as a writer, we should have a better sense of who the person is. This is just another way of saying that. I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit too poetic or abstract here. I'm going to try to be a little clearer. But we can try to imagine, what is this person's life, this person that I don't know? And if I'm able to in any way accurately describe some part of their life, they've done a good job representing themselves in their writing. Okay? Another way we could say this, I'm just going to ask another question here. What is something new you learned about me? This is an especially good question if you're writing an essay and you want your parents to read it, let's say. I know a lot of us would never let that happen. I understand. But maybe your best friend. What's something new you learned about me? Okay. If you're really writing with honesty, you're probably saying something in a way that you haven't said it before, or that your friends haven't understood it before. And so this is another question that we should be able to answer. Okay. So these are some questions, just some questions to get us started on peer editing. If we had writing today, we would look at the writing now, but I know we don't, and that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get us on. How do I do this? I'm trying to share my. Oh, here. There we go. Sorry, I got confused. It's because Laconic was up still. Let me get rid of Laconic. Okay, so we're gonna look at some essays. All right, this is an essay, and I'm gonna share this with you here. I think I can actually send you a link so that you can access this. Okay, you should be able to access this if you want to look at this on your own. If you're on a computer, if you're on your phone, I'm going to go ahead and share this with you, and we'll read it that way. Okay. Let me see. Chat's being a problem again. That's okay. All right, that's the link. I'm going to go ahead and open this up again. This is an essay that I think is actually pretty good, but has some issues with it. Now, this is a real student essay. Okay, not a student that I had, but it is a real student essay. I see that a lot of people are able to figure out how to access this Google Doc. That's lovely. If you're having problems with it, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and look at this too. When you're looking at someone else's essay, Google Docs is a really great way to do it. You want to go over to this right-hand side, and you see this editing mode. I like to click on suggesting. Okay, this is where, so if I'm suggesting, instead of deleting that, it'll actually just show the change that I made. It's important that we don't make changes for our friends because they might not agree with us. It might not be representative of what they wanted, but it's better to make those suggestions. Okay, so the prompt here, evaluate a significant experience, achievement, risk you've taken, or ethical dilemma you've faced and its impact to you. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to look at this, and we'll talk about, I'll ask you some questions at the end. I'm actually going to put the questions in the chat now. working well in this essay? What would you change and why? Okay, you could look at those questions we just covered as well. So remember, that's the prompt. Okay, I'm gonna give a little bit more time. I know some people have finished this. Some people seem to really like this essay. That's great. I do think there's some stuff we can work on here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back up to the beginning. Remember that we're gonna. I know it seems like, Ben, get over it. We've talked about this enough. We haven't. It's really important to remember the prompt. So we're looking at a significant experience, achievement, risk you've taken, or ethical dilemma. Okay, so this is about a significant experience, obviously, right? Sorry, I'm trying to check the chat. It's one of those things where, okay. Okay, good. All right. So looking at this, I know some people really seem to have liked this. Now, I've seen some comments about things that we can improve, but what is it that we're liking here? What is it that we're liking here? Okay. If we still need more time, I understand. Okay, it's sincere. It's about a relationship with dad. We feel like we're there. So there's obviously some good use of seen here, right? Okay, let's talk about that. Where does it work particularly well? For me, well, I'll share what's for me first. Let's talk about these paragraphs. Let's go step by step. What happens in the first paragraph? Okay, last two paragraphs are strong. Okay. Okay, doesn't have much of a hook, right? Maybe there's something we could do there. I'm going to go ahead and agree early on. Okay, kind of feel like things jump around. Interesting, interesting. Could be. So these are the kind of things that we would want to be able to say to somebody. And anytime you make a suggestion like that, it's good if we can make some recommendation for what we could do instead, right? But I'm kind of agreeing with some of you here. Okay, let me say what works well for me, and then what I would maybe recommend changing. And then I've actually got a version of this that's been revised or fixed, and I think that'll help give us some ideas as well. Okay, so I like this paragraph, the third paragraph here. I do like it because I think this gives us some of the challenges that we're faced with dad. I think it's a little bit too long. Keep in mind, right, that no matter what, we like this essay, we don't like this essay, this is undeniably a lot of words for a personal statement. So it would be nice to cut some things. If we could simplify this a little bit, would be good. Zoom seems to there's this strange wizard out there that kind of decides whether or not I get to see the chat comments. I don't know how it works. Okay, cool. All right, next. I see it. Yeah, we like the food there. Maybe, yeah. All right. Next one that I like. I think when we start talking about surviving, this is good. This is a very good paragraph, right? I think there's a lot that we could work on. But I think if I was going to try to keep something, these kind of realizations of growth that we had in the relationship with dad, this is good, right? There's a lot that we can work on here, okay? How do we feel about the conclusion? For me, I see people are just kind of being quiet and waiting to see what I say. That's fine. For me, the weakest parts of this essay are the introduction. I feel like it just kind of awkwardly jumps in to the topic. I think this is a good essay, but I think this is something I would work on. It's a little bit disjointed. One significant experience I had was it's just kind of very directly walking into answering the question in a way that I don't think is very compelling. And the conclusion also is another place where I would maybe change things. Okay. Why would I change it here? I guess I feel like something about life isn't just out of a magazine with the best appliances and nicest furniture. We're getting a little bit close to a cliche here. I guess I would want I would want to see what else this writer could do with a conclusion. I'm going to show you the conclusion that this student went with in a moment, and I think you'll agree that it's a little bit better. But if we look at each paragraph, we can kind of determine what we want to keep and what we don't just by looking at the topic, right? So this is about difficulty in the camping experience itself. We have a lot of examples of that. We could probably remove some of those examples, okay? Here, and so what I would do, sorry, I'm kind of moving quickly here. I can actually highlight this, and then you see this little icon over here. I know some of us are very familiar with Google Docs, but if you're not, I can click on that and make a comment. All right. Okay, now I've made a comment, and so if I'm sharing this with a student, they can actually see that comment and they can resolve it, they can answer it, they could actually reply to it, okay, see? And so there's a lot of stuff we could do, okay? Good, okay? Some of this, about like the values that I learned from this experience, it would have been nice to see this earlier in the essay as well, okay? But I agree, I think it's mostly a good essay. Let's look at the revision. So think about that first paragraph that we saw in the last one, and let's think about this one. What kind of comment could I make? You're the teacher now. What kind of comment could I make here? Is this an essay too? This is the same essay. Yeah, I'm looking for what you would say about this introductory paragraph, this first paragraph, compared to what we just looked at, this first paragraph. So if you're looking for my feedback, I'm happy to share it. But what are your thoughts? I'd just like to hear from you just for a second. I'll share with you my thoughts as well. More attractive, catchier. Good. Yeah, it maybe has some words that we don't know. It could be harder to read, but it definitely gives us more of a description, and it immerses us better. Guys, this is a hook in the way that that first draft didn't necessarily have it. Okay, so I'm just going to go back so that we can do kind of a taste test, if you want to do that, right? Call it that. One significant experience I had was when I camped out in the wilderness with my dad for 2 weeks last summer. More of a summary, right? Now look at the version of this that's a scene. Deer flies buzzed my head and sweat poured down my back. Look, good choices of verbs, right? Buzzed, buzzed. The fly doesn't fly. I mean, he does, right? But he buzzes. So we're really feeling that. We're kind of involved fully in the story, okay? And sweat poured down my back. Now, again, like a lot of good hooks, this doesn't give us all the information. We don't even know that he's camping with dad yet, right? My backpack, now we get that clue, dug into my sides, and I was sure I had just heard rustlings that could only bode a visit from a ferocious bear, my dad and I. Okay, now, here, if I was editing this, I would still make some suggestions. This is a nice place to stop that sentence. Makes it easier to read. My dad and I were headed into the back regions of swamps and raspberry bushes, at least 1,000 miles from home and regular communication. So this, my point is, this I think is much more compelling than this, okay? You're welcome to disagree with me, but that's my personal opinion, okay? So, good, yeah, nice hook, right? Okay. Now, I'm going to let you read this, and we're going to go back to the other, just the second paragraph. We're going to go back to the other second paragraph, and we can see some of the changes that got made. Okay, so when we looked at that last one, sorry guys, I had to step out for a second. When we looked at that last, the first draft, you might have noticed, oh, is that an exclamation mark? Maybe. Okay, okay. So that first paragraph was much longer here, right? But the second paragraph is actually shorter, right? So, like I said, looking at this, okay, I'd never camped before, and now my father thought it would be good for us to bond. I guess this is shorter, okay? More of a summary. But then we have this really long one where we're looking for examples of what's difficult to use in the paragraph. And here, we've kind of combined some of the challenges that were in that third paragraph, the long one. We've integrated those into the introduction. We've brought those in, the challenges of the mud pulling at the sneakers and stuff. And then here, we're talking about some of the conveniences that are gone, right? And so the thing about getting the first trout, this is here too. We've taken those best ideas from here and we've simplified them and made them smaller. Sure enough, this is a much shorter essay, okay? We're gonna keep reading it, but I wanna stop for a second to show you the word count. We're not at 697 words now, we're at 594. We're fitting more conveniently into the expectations of length for this essay. We might still need to make some things a little shorter, but it's good. Okay, here. Now, what is this paragraph accomplishing? What is this paragraph doing well? Okay, it's summarizing the experience. That's right. Sorry, give me a second here. There we go. Kind of summarizing, yeah. But I think it does more than that, to be honest with you. There's not just summarizing. Yeah, good. Okay, it describes the process, but he learned something. This actually covers, Vilhar's got a good point here. There's some element here that we didn't necessarily get until those last two paragraphs in the first one. There's an element here of what we learned, right? And what did this guy learn? He learned independence. He learned, let's see, that he didn't need all the TV and phones and CDs and stuff. And so we're getting that towards the end here. In fact, it's very clear I learned something about myself. So instead of just going for the lesson learned at the end, we're kind of previewing it here. We're showing that that was a process, as you said. So this is much stronger, okay? All right, next. I liked this paragraph before, so let's see how it's changed. Okay. Paragraph talks about mother and father. That's right. Faris is right on the money. We're getting the kind of quick summarizing of what this paragraph focuses on. Okay. And then if I go here and I look at this thing about dad, and we have this kind of lesson learned and everything, but again, it's a little bit long, right? So this is kind of a simplified version. And I want you to notice something else. I'm going to go back here so that I can show you this too. Here, let's look at this last sentence. This is the same paragraph. That was a revelation, an adult one, that it wasn't all about me and that things don't stay the same or perfect all the time. It's a good sentence and it's a fine lesson to learn. But what the writer has done here, and I like this, they've separated this into two sentences. We'll talk about why this is good in a moment. But I want you to notice that that does look different. What it does, in my opinion, is by making this a separate sentence, things are not always perfect, but that doesn't mean they're all bad either. It places more importance on the lesson learned. It kind of separates it into its own entity. And I think that that is better, let's say, than taking it and combining it into this sentence here, okay? Okay, now we have the final paragraph. And remember what I said when we looked at this before, I felt like it was a little bit weak. I felt like we hadn't really gotten there. Part of it was I felt like the values just kind of got bunched into the end, and we haven't done that here. We've put the values earlier in the essay, right? This is where the old American English saying that less is more really starts to have value, right? We've cut out some of the extra stuff and gone straight to the lesson, okay? Even in that second sentence, it says, I grew on that camping trip, okay? We're getting very clear about what it is that we picked up from this experience with Dad. So by taking out some of that filler, by building the introduction a little bit more, and by focusing on the lessons learned earlier on, sorry guys, I had responsibilities. We're back. So what I I wanted to share about this is that sometimes if we focus only on the lesson that we want to learn from an experience, it actually goes better. It becomes a better essay. Okay, so those are some of the revisions I would suggest, some of the revisions that got taken here. And I think it's pretty undeniable that that this first essay was good, but that this one is actually better. Okay, this is a stronger essay. Okay, so questions so far. We're going to look at a few more. Any questions? No? Okay. I'm going to move us on to another one. Okay. I'm going to share this as well for people who can actually, people who are comfortable accessing Google Docs. And then if you're not, I'll try to put this in the chat, but it's going to take a while, remember? So this is an essay. I'm just going to tell you. This is an essay actually from Kazakhstan. And I haven't changed anything here. So I'm going to put the prompt first. Okay. I've removed the name of the student and any kind of identifying factors. Okay. But I've kept the writing the same. So we're going to look at this just like we did the other one. It's going to take me a while, but I'm going to try to put this in Google Chat. My voice is breaking. Is my voice still breaking? Okay. I need to use this for Wi-Fi. There's no Wi-Fi there. So, can you hear me now? Okay. You guys can hear me. I'm gonna sit out here. We'll try our best. I don't know. I've got some. It's hard when you have a child at home. There's only so much you can do. So I'm gonna work with. Okay, guys. Thank you for your flexibility. My voice still breaks. I don't know what to do, guys. I can try. It might just be my internet. Let me try something else. We'll try this again. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean for all this to happen. I'm gonna try different Wi-Fi. We'll see if I can make this work. Can you hear me better now? I've changed my internet source. Does this work better? Okay. Okay. That's good. This is the best I can. This is still breaks. It is from Kazakhstan. Yes. But I don't know. I don't know what to do, guys. This is I don't know. This is both my internet sources. So let me see if I can fix this somehow. I'll try one more thing here. How do I sound now? I've tried to change my audio source. It's better? Okay, cool. Maybe we fixed it. Okay, yeah, this is from Kazakhstan. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your patience there. I'm gonna share this again. So this is the topic. I've already shared this. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Okay. Again, this is a pretty good essay that needs some work, okay? So we're going to look through this. I've already shared this so that you could actually access it, but I know some people not so comfortable with Google Docs. So this is the only other way we can do this, really. But I'm going to go ahead and share it this way. I've already changed my internet. It's okay. I think it's a little better now. Okay, guys, this is the last paragraph. All right, this is written exactly the way it's written here. You've also got access to it on this link. You're welcome to click that link. It should actually give you access. But what I want you to do, I'm going to put us in groups in a second. I'd like you to read through this. I'd like you to talk with the group about maybe what you're liking here and what kind of suggestions and changes you could make. And then we're going to come back together and look at it together, okay? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, I just want to make sure we're good on that. That was kind of a difficult little moment right there. Cool, great. Thank you. So 2 questions I'm going to put in the chat, and then I'm going to have you guys get together and talk about this, okay? I'm going to try to keep the questions simpler than I usually would because I want to make sure everybody can contribute. Okay, now I'm going to put us in breakout rooms. Wait, people lose the text when we go to breakout rooms on the phone. That is really annoying. I don't know what to do, guys. This is the best. I think this is the best I can do. Let me see if I can. Here's what we'll do. I'll download this as a Word document and I'll send it to you guys. That way you can get it that way. Okay, that's another way to open it. Give me a second here. We're going to. All right, guys, I'm just going to share this I'm going to share this in our group as a file so that if you are having problems, you can actually access it that way too. Okay. There you go. That's it. Oh. Sorry, I shared it to the wrong person. Give me a second here. Here we go. Okay. So, again, this is a real essay that I actually get to look at. I'm interested in your thoughts on it. We're going to talk about it together in a moment, but I am going to put us in breakout rooms now. Okay? What did you like? What could we change? Great. It's in the WhatsApp group, everybody. Four people in a room, okay? And here we go. All right, we're gonna wait a moment for people to come back. If you're already here, can you answer my question again? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Love it. Love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen again. If there are audio problems in the future, you let me know. Okay. So, yeah, this was a good essay. This is actually a student who is now at a university in the West, actually in Canada. Okay. So this is a essay that got accepted, but it didn't get accepted like this. We had to do some changes. We had to make some changes. Okay. So no problem. I like the enthusiasm, Yerik. The capital letters kind of makes it seem more excited, which is good. Okay. So you guys just talked in groups about this, I hope. Let's cover a little bit of what you talked about. What is working in this essay? What do we like about this essay? All right. Someone said he's too straight. We've got a very detailed critique from Diaz. Ambitious, strong motivation, hook. Cool. You guys have some really great feedback here. Okay, so yep, there are some things that we're trying to avoid that happen here. Like even after centuries, my name will be remembered. We don't need that. That's not why we're going to college, so that we can have a statue of ourselves. Right. Cool. Cool. Okay, I like all of this feedback. And so a lot of this is stuff that actually, with the person that I was editing this with, this is stuff that we talked about as well. So we've kind of talked about what we like, and actually a lot of people just kind of dumped in here what we didn't like too, which is fine. Kind of hard how to tell who this is as a person. Right. So this is my big issue with this. Let me talk about what I like first. I'm loving this chat. Okay, good. You're absolutely right about everything. You guys keep those comments coming. I am gonna stop looking at them for a second so I can talk to you about what I think about this. Okay. So Hook is great. Hook is really cool. I think this is a student who clearly understood how to create a scene. We have this interesting look at kind of a difficult, scary medical procedure. Yep. And then that goes into an interesting topic as well. So we have this very personal look at medical stuff, moving into a broader look at medical stuff in Kazakhstan, right? Which is interesting. Okay. Um, then I think it gets a little bit weird. And some people already said this. I don't have a problem with this paragraph about all the different apps that got developed and built and all that stuff. I think that's fine. But I agree with those of you who are saying that this doesn't feel tremendously connected to what's up here, right? So we've got the medical stuff here, and then okay, I guess medical turns into charity, and charity turns into building apps, but that's a lot of steps that aren't really being made very clear. And so I think the transition here is awkward. I think we need to work on a better transition, or maybe we need to. Somebody says he's kind of showing off a little bit here. I think there is a danger that we've started to tell a compelling story about medical work here, and then we've gotten into just talking about our accomplishments, right? And they're not even necessarily accomplishments that are, working well for the essay. So something we could do, this thing about sports, this is cool, I guess. But what if I move this? All right, I'm going to take that out of there. What if I put it up here? Okay. Okay, I'm going to change this. Okay. Right. So I've made like a little bit of a transition sentence here, right? This is just an idea. But I took the challenges of my health scare and used them to better myself first. Somebody in the chat said, hey, what if we take this sports thing and move it a little bit earlier? That might be good. Then we could say something, we could kind of move from there and say, let's see. Once I was in better shape myself, I started to look towards others in need and think about how I could help them, right? So we're moving the paragraphs around ideologically so that they actually make a little bit more sense, okay? I don't know if you guys agree with these recommendations, but this is what I would say looking at this now. I don't even think this is what I said to the student before. This is just what I'm saying now, right? This student, by the way, is already in college, great student. So it's a separate situation, right? But this seems, I mean, this is all hypothetical at this point. This is a student who already got in. Okay, so here, a lot of people are complaining about the conclusion. They're saying that the conclusion leaves something to be desired. I seem to remember that the person I was working with on editing this essay had a very strong feeling of that as well. Okay, that maybe it's a little bit cliche. What could we do to change this conclusion? How could we change this conclusion to make it better? Great, buddy. My son's making an American flag. It looks cool. No, it's not American. That is the flag of the United States of America. It's not American flag. Okay. Okay, you can write a better essay. Yeah. Okay, Norshaget has so we've got some kind of funny topic recommendations here. But Norshaget has a really good recommendation here. We've actually kind of completely lost this concept of the surgery. It just like disappears from the essay. It would be really nice for that to come back, right? And saying something like injury doesn't mean the end would be good. So if I was looking at this, if I was like a friend editing this, I would probably say exactly what you're saying. Okay. All right. Something like that, right? And there's more we could say too. More realistic conclusion, a word or two about the family, something that just feels like less broad and generic, right? Would be nice. Because it's kind of unclear. It's kind of unclear what this person wants to do at this point. Now, I want you to know this was the first of like many drafts of what this person turned in. So this is not like the one that they gave to the college, but these are the ideas that I would be considering. You guys are doing an excellent job looking at this, by the way. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop for a second before going on to the next one because I'm not the only person with some valuable insight here. Roshan, is there anything else that you would add to what we've already discussed regarding this essay?
I think you just covered everything.
Okay.
And the thing about this person, somehow when he was filling out his Common App, he actually didn't write anything. He didn't enter anything in his honors. So it was even good that he made the list here.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. So make sure don't make the mistake. This student maybe got kind of lucky in their approach, and it wasn't a problem for them. But don't make the same mistake. Make sure that you fill out the Common App appropriately. This is where taking more time in advance is a good thing, right? And so That's where you really want to be consulting with Education USA, the guidance counselor at your school, and other professionals, so that you're making sure that you're doing every step appropriately. Okay. Great. Good work, guys. Good work. One more essay, okay? This one has too small print, I think. This is a very long essay. The first problem we have with this one is that it's too long, right? 909 words. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so that's an issue. This is a well-written essay, though. So I want to think what's working here and what can we remove? Okay, oh, that's too big. So I've gotten essays that are well over 1,000 words. I'm sure Roshan has as well. It's pretty common, actually. So we had to do a lot to cut this one, but give me a sec. We'll share this link with you guys as well. So this is another one from Kazakhstan. Okay, I'm going to go back up so that we can read this together in just a moment, but I'm going to share this with you first. Okay, good question from BS, and something that I think we should consider here. Should we write more than 650 words? I don't want to say yes or no to that. What I want to say is don't stop writing because you've reached your word limit. Okay, so when you're writing the first draft, you should get what you want out there. More is better because then we can cut from there. I'm always happier, I will say, to see an essay that's too long than an essay that's too short. Not just because I get excited by words or something, although I do like to see the writing, but because it allows us more to work with. It's more to cut down. I think that generally is a better thing. If someone has something a little too short, we can start to look at how to make the examples bigger or longer. But it's always a good thing to have more words. So here, this is, yeah, it's too many words, but it's something we can cut down. Yeah, we're going to try to get the main point of this essay. We want to talk about the same as we just did, what's working here and what isn't. This is actually, I would say, a pretty strong essay, but there is obviously stuff that we need to delete or remove. Okay, and maybe, yeah, think about where we could get rid of extra information, or if there's any paragraphs that you don't think are fitting particularly well. I'm going to share this on chat like we did before as a file.
Мама, папа на улицу подошел, я же вот там. А я на улицу
We've got some people that are finished already. This is the second time today that Shingus is crying from looking at an essay. So I keep track of these kinds of things in the comments. It's good to have an emotional reaction to writing. So yep. There's a lot that we could talk about here. So what I want to do is I'm going to put us in smaller groups. Okay. And I want you to talk about kind of what's working. If you think it's working well, what could be cut, because here's the truth. Here's the hard truth, right? You might have an essay that you also feel good about. This student felt very good about this essay, and I think they should. There's a lot good here, but we need to cut stuff. So what can we do to get some of this done? And then maybe you feel like it's a little too predictable or a little too cliche. What could you do to change that too? Okay, so I'd like you to talk about this essay with a group, and I'm going to give you a little time to do that. I'm going to put us in groups now. There we go. Please join your group.
Да. Светит глаза. Светит глаза. И он тонет.
Nope. I'm almost done, buddy, but I'm still working, okay? You should go do your flag. Finish your flag.
Мама, ну, красиво получилось. А синий цвет почему-то не закончил. У меня, ну, это же голубой в черном вещине. Нет, он светло-голубой же. Нет, больше угождал же. Так вот, он показал мне так, что голубь иногда бывает в черном вещине. Ну ладно. Вот, вот. Молодец. Молодец, красиво.
All right, we're waiting just a minute because a couple people are still coming back. But we're getting towards the end of our presentation here. I just want to take a little time to look through this one and see what your thoughts are. What could we possibly do to shorten this? Any suggestions at all? I'll offer my own ideas in a moment. I know not everybody liked this. A lot of people did. Yeah. Diaz, yes. You say Ben. Did this person apply? Yes. All these essays actually ended up applying. I don't know. I can't promise you that this person got in or not. I don't know. Okay, Gohar says to make it more of a montage and not a narrative. That would be interesting. So, less information about friends and everything. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, we could get into this. So the narrative is maybe a little bit of a problem, right? We're doing a little too much storytelling. It might be better to focus on images, right? Okay. You could cut out maybe 2 to 4 paragraphs, paragraphs 2 through 4. Okay. Your eyes are tired of reading this, right? It's long. It is long. And so what we need to do is maybe work on combining paragraphs too. So this would be a great place where what I would recommend this student to do, I'm checking the chat here, change the style of writing. Yeah, we don't want to change too much of the style just because this is maybe the voice of this student, right? But I think what we could do is we could look at, yeah, certainly as it is, it's too long. They wouldn't finish reading this. It's 4 pages. That's too much, right? So what we could encourage the student to do is write a sentence next to each paragraph that captures what's happening in that paragraph. And then we might need to move some of these paragraphs around and simplify them, right? Good. Okay. So some of this is great. Good introduction for the most part. This is kind of a history thing. History of being a good student, and there's this challenge that comes up here, which is that I feel full of self-importance and pride. Maybe just taking that idea of feeling full of self-importance and pride, deleting the rest of this paragraph and adding that idea up here would capture all the important ideas mentioned there without losing anything important, right? Yeah, little bit arrogant here. A little bit more humility would be a good thing. There is this part where going to the competition, there's a challenge of feeling unsure about yourself, and I think maybe focusing a little bit more on those feelings and exploring those feelings more would have been a good thing. Yeah. Okay. Good. So those are the kind of things we would want to work on. But then the goal has to be, variety of sentence structures, a lot of sentences that start with I, or just that feature I as one of the primary words in the sentence. So this is almost a little bit too self-focused. It'd be nice to kind of pull away from that and focus more on some of those feelings that we're experiencing, right? This is not a final draft. No, this was a draft that we saw before we ended up cutting about 400 words off of it. So, yeah. We cut about 400 and then they added a few more. Yeah, we ended up about halfway. Yeah. So this is about 900 words right now. So, okay. All right. So another essay for us to consider. Okay. So that gets us pretty much to the end here. I want to give a couple minutes for question and answer. Before I do, I want to make sure we have a couple things very, very clear. I'm checking the chat. Final draft. I don't have the final draft with me right now. I'm sorry. That actually is with the teacher who got this. But I did think if we look through this, we could think about how to cut this. I'm not sure if this person got in or not. Okay. Sorry, the chat just keeps going. I'm checking. Okay. I think what we need to ask ourselves, if we are the student, is what is our main argument? Just like what is the main argument here, right? I think what the student is trying to say is that they went to this international competition, kind of fell out of their league, still succeeded, and that it was this really powerful experience. Okay. No, I don't know the name, Diaz. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know the name of this writer. I was actually given this anonymously, so I have no idea. But I'll say this: how many days average does it take to write this essay, or any essay? That depends on the person. There's not really a clear answer there, and I don't think we want to look at it like we start one place and then we're done. A good essay is never entirely done, right? So we're always able to edit and revise. Roshan sees a lot more essays than I do, so she could probably tell you the average time that it takes for someone to write one of these. I would say in my experience, a lot of people can get something that looks at least like the start of a good essay ready within about 3 weeks. But I don't know that that's necessarily true across the board. It definitely depends on your background and everything. Is a week enough? I don't know. I don't know. Roshan, what would you say?
Like I had several students who were good at writing, and they usually needed about like 1 week for like the first draft, and then some revisions, and plus the final draft. But most people, they actually, even like brainstorming time, this pre-work and finding their main kind of like idea of the essay, it might actually take a few weeks. So like when you finish with brainstorming, I hope that next week we will try to have a webinar with Jarmahan, who got admitted to New York University Abu Dhabi. So Jarmahan started writing his essay in August and he finished in October. And you have to understand that Jarmahan is a good writer. But somehow, like for him, it was very difficult to find the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Just depends on you. It can take a week. It can take up to several months.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Everybody's different in that way. I've had students who are very good writers. Sometimes good writers take longer even. It's like they get stuck in their head like how they want to approach it, right? But I've had students who take more time in the planning phase, let's say. And so they work on an outline for a long time until they're satisfied with that. And then they'll start writing. That would take longer too. Can you write a good essay in a week? Yes. Does that give you enough time to go back and edit anything to make it better? Not really. So I don't recommend that. Okay, if you're feeling like 10 words a day is your thing, I guess go for that. I know Arlena, I think, is kind of joking here that we could do 10 words a day, but I will say this: consistency pays off, right? So if you're able to commit, let's say 2 hours a week or something like that to this from now until next year when you apply, you'll have a lot more done than if you just try to cram everything in on the last week. It's like exercise or anything else, right? So consistency does pay off. Okay. Cool. Good. So that's that. All right. Any other questions? Anything at all? I would say write a little bit every day. If that's one lesson you get from me today, then I am a very happy man, because that's what I really fully believe. Thank you guys. Brak miet. It's been a week, huh? Like, we've really committed to this. No problem. No problem. I really appreciate everything, guys. I didn't have time to show you today. There's always more to look at, right? But there's sample essays here on our webpage. Okay, you're welcome to look at those. There's also this really great section that we were going to look at today on College Essay Guy about the supplemental essays, the extracurricular essays. I don't think those matter as much. Yeah, you're welcome. Those don't matter as much as the main essay, so I'm glad we didn't talk about those too much. But you guys are definitely welcome to look at this website if you need more help. Roshan is a tremendous help in this kind of stuff as well. So are the other EdUSA people. And of course, to answer some of the questions that I see flying by my screen right now, along with all these thank yous, yes, you're welcome to email me and I'll talk to you. I will need a little bit of time to do that. Okay? Great. Yes, F for respect. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Great, guys. Roshan, any other yeah, you can send an email and I'll look at it. Wow, that's a rabbit or something. That's an amazing concept. Any other comments before we go, Roshan?
Guys, we will send you a survey. So this survey will be only about these classes you had with Ben. We need it for reports. So I will send it to you today. And I hope that you will have time to fill it out today. So Ben will be able to make a report. What else? You have a book, College Essay Essentials by Ethan Sawyer. This book is incredible. It's just so really, really good, and it has so much stuff. And I really want you to read, there is one exercise where he asks you one question. It's actually two questions, and it helps you to decide on your structure of the essay. It's like, have you ever had a challenge? And do you know what you want to do in the future? Yes and no, and then you can structure your essay. And you should start thinking about your essay like today, because you know, like interesting ideas, they will come to you like when you do not even expect them. Okay, and that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding, Roshan. Guys, please fill out that survey. I send this reporting back to Washington, D.C., which is how they know that this stuff works, so that they can put more funding into making sure that great free stuff like this is available. So it's really nice if you can get the ideas out there. Okay. What are guys? Salvonis. Best of luck with everything.
Bye-bye.
Bye.